Alright, make sure you are on your congressional notes or the legislative branch notes. Today we're going to go over elections, powers denied, and leadership. Okay, congressional elections. When you're talking about congressional elections, you need to know the term incumbent. An incumbent is a congressperson who is running to keep their seat. So an incumbent is running for re-election. And generally they run against a challenger, and a challenger is somebody who wants to take away that seat from that Congress member. Most incumbents get re-elected, and there's reasons why. The first reason is that you know who they are. You know the name of the person that serves you currently, you recognize that name, and if you don't know anything about that person, at least you could say, well, nothing bad has happened while that person's been in office, so I'm going to go ahead and re-elect them. They have a voting record. Interest groups, remember that's what IGs mean. Interest groups and constituents know how this congressperson will vote. They know if they're liberal or conservative, so they know whether or not the person has, supported Obamacare or supported gun control or hasn't supported Obamacare. They know whether the person was responsible for the government shutdown, or not responsible for the shutdown. So having a voting record makes it also easier for voters to choose you. Congress members who are in office have had the ability to obtain pork barrel legislation. And pork barrel legislation means this is money that Congress members have had added to the federal budget that is granted to their home state or to their home district. So it would be like Randy Forbes, your representative, getting $10 billion to repair all the roads in Hampton Roads, or to get $80 billion to build another cross between the peninsula and the south side, like another bridge or another tunnel. It's money that comes from the federal government, but it doesn't benefit the entire nation. It just benefits the home state where these people are from. And when your Congress member is in office and is able to get pork for you, you like them. And you're like, hey, look, that guy made it possible for us to have a fourth crossing. Franking privilege. Anybody who's in office can mail and make free phone calls. So all of these are reasons why incumbents get reelected, which brings me to the point these guys down here. Okay. People have been career politicians or able to stay in Congress forever. People like Strom Thurmond, or people like Harry Byrd. Look, this is President Kennedy. These men got into office almost as early as when President Kennedy was in office, and that was in the 1960s. Some incumbents are sometimes able to hold their position or their seat for 40, 50 years. Okay, districts. I'm going to talk about districts. Maybe. Hold on, give me a second, guys. Sorry. My drawing tools are not working as well as I'd like, so I'd use these. Okay, I apologize. Now, when you're talking about elections, you have to recognize that the House of Representatives members serve a district. Virginia is divided into 11 different districts. Okay. You probably live in the 4th district. I live in the 3rd district. Okay, because y'all live more or less right here. And see how that's in the light pink, which is the 4th district, and I live right here, which is in the darker purple of the 3rd district. Okay, so we live in 2 different districts. The 2nd district is Virginia Beach and Chesapeake. Okay, the 9th district is Western Virginia, not West Virginia, the western part of our state. The bigger the district, that means less people live in it. Okay, less people live in that area. The smaller the district, the more densely populated that area is. So if you look at this little tiny piece of District 8 compared to District 5, more people actually live in this small piece of land than in all of this huge piece of land, because Northern Virginia up by DC has way more population than the middle of our state. Okay, so districts, they're drawn to be as equal in population and population size as possible. Now, these districts, even though these people go to DC and serve us, okay, these districts are drawn by our state legislators here in Richmond. So, our Virginia General Assembly draws these district lines. Okay. Now, before they decide let me go back, before they decide how to draw these lines, they have to count how many people live in each one of these districts. And we do that every 10 years with the census. So the federal government pays for people to count, and as accurately as possible, everybody in the United States. So every 10 years, the House of Representatives has to decide if a state has lost or gained population, because if you lose population, you lose a district. If you gain population, you get another district. So if your population gets smaller, you lose a district. And populations got smaller in New York and Pennsylvania. Okay, and they lost 2 seats each. Okay, now the people from New York and Pennsylvania must have moved to Texas, because Texas gained 2 seats, or Florida, because Florida gained 2 seats. Okay, or Georgia gained a seat. Okay, so people moved from the north to the south. Okay, and we call the South the Sun Belt, because this is where the sun shines. Oh my gosh, that's a horrible circle. That's where the sun shines a lot. What do you think? Is that a bad sunshine? Anyway, this is called the Sun Belt. If the population changes in a state, the state will lose representatives, and they will lose the district that they represent. Alright, I'm going to go back. So, like I just showed you, if the population decreases, you lose the number of representatives you have. If the population increases, you get more. I'm going to try these links. Oh, it was a map. Okay. Now, I want to, let's see, let's look at Florida. Alright, here are your districts in Florida. Florida has a lot of districts because a lot of people live in Florida. They got a lot of large cities like Orlando and Miami and Fort Lauderdale and Jacksonville and Tallahassee and Pensacola, right? So they have a lot of cities. So they're more popular, Tampa, and they're more populated areas, their districts are smaller. In the sticks or the boondocks where not a lot of people live, like the 17th district, that district is larger. But Florida's population increased, which means that they got an extra district. Okay. And let me, oh, I don't want to close that because I need YouTube open. House district continues. So a state that loses or gains a district must redistrict. And redistrict, by definition, is to redraw the district boundary lines. Now, you don't have to lose a district to redistrict or redraw the boundary lines, but that's commonly why it's done. Okay, remember, state legislators or state congresses are one that's held in Richmond. They're the ones who get to draw these lines. And the one thing that our state representatives do is that they gerrymander. Gerrymandering means they're going to draw district lines to benefit their party's candidate or their political party's candidate. So what they'll do in Richmond is they'll take Virginia and they'll draw like the 5th district to fit as many Republicans as they can in the 5th district. So the 5th district people will re-elect a Republican. They do the same thing in the 6th district. And then they know, oh, there's a lot of minority groups that live up here, a lot of Democrats that live in Northern Virginia, so we'll draw those to keep those Democrats getting reelected. We'll draw the 3rd district to make sure that Bobby Scott, Rhodes-Geromin's representative, is always elected. A lot of this gerrymandering or drawing district lines to benefit your political party candidate is done racially, which means that the state legislators pack as many of one race into one district like they did in the 3rd district. You can see, look, downtown Norfolk, Portsmouth, downtown Hampton, and Newport News. Okay, I think that's the Oyster Point section of Newport News. Surrey, the east side of Richmond, like there's more minorities that live in this area. Okay, so they've packed as many minority groups into the 3rd district as possible. And then in other places of Virginia, they've cracked those minorities up. The reason they do that is because you tend to vote for a political party based on your race. So if they pack minorities into the 3rd district, then you know that that 3rd district is probably going to be Democrat. If they have a bunch of white people in other districts, you know that those districts are probably going to be Republicans. So your race plays into gerrymandering because your race predicts the party that you're going to be affiliated with. And if you're trying to gerrymander so your political party continues to be elected and re-elected, you're going to draw your district lines that are going to guarantee that. I'm going to move on to powers denied to Congress. This will be quick. What Congress cannot do, this is actually a review. It's mentioned in Article 1, Section 9. 9 is the German word for no. So remember, these are the things that Congress cannot do. Can't grant titles of nobility. They can't put a tax on exports, and that's goods that are leaving our country to another country. We tax imports, countries or goods that are coming into our country, but we do not put a tax on products that are manufactured here and sent abroad. Can't pass ex post facto laws. Those are those laws that apply to an action after you've done it. So they can't arrest you for doing something that you did before it was illegal. Bill of Attainder. Can't punish a particular group of people without a trial. And writ of habeas corpus. You can't suspend writ of habeas corpus or the right to know the evidence being held against you. The only time Congress can suspend writ of habeas corpus is if we are in the middle of an invasion or rebellion within the country, like the Civil War. They suspended writ of habeas corpus during the Civil War. Okay, next up, leadership.